music blaring from a lone loudspeaker from a local storefront. Soon the speakers were multiplied and made louder, attached as they were to large radios or record players. They played the music of the day, the American music of the day, jazz and rhythm and blues. Mostly big band jazz. The new thing, the R&B thing, can be summed up by music like this. By that time, the radio sets and record players had been replaced by the first sound systems, and customers were going to these shops and bars just to hear records like The Fat Man. Fast forward to 1952. The sound systems were a world of their own, with a huge audience made up of the working poor of Jamaica or Kingston's ghettos. There are a lot of sounds, but the biggest and most popular is Tom the Great Sebastian's, run by a hardware store owner, a Chinese Jamaican by the name of Tom Wong. Vincent George Forbes was Tom the Great Sebastian's selector. In 1954, he migrated to England and started his own sound system, Duke Vin. Eastern Standard Time. Shut up. Eastern Standard Time by Don Drummond featuring the Scatterlights, a Duke Reid recording from 1964. And one of the first major ska tunes to gain an audience outside of Jamaica, thanks in no small part through the efforts of Duke Vin and his sound system, which had a residency in central London's Flamingo Club, played a lot of West London dances, shebeens, town halls, parties across the city. When Duke Vin came to London, he was accompanied by his friend Wilbert Campbell, who also had a sound system, Count Suckle. And in 1964, Suckle started one of the first black nightclubs in Paddington, called a Q Club. Because it was rare, because it was early, because he was a pioneer, it soon became a kind of a hub, a central point for sound system culture in London, especially because it was in central London. The kind of tunes that you probably would have heard, say around 1967, the kind of things like this. Remember this tune. We'll be coming back to it later. From 1967, Let Them Try, Studio on Pressure from Alton Ellis, the soul of Jamaica, I think he was called by Clement Dodd. If you were black and born in London in, say, 1960, that tune that you just heard, and again, like I said, you'll hear it again in a different context later on, that tune would have been part of the background sound to your growing up. It would have been the kind of tune that your mum and dad might have danced to at the Q Club, because it's your parents' music, it wasn't yours. You would have been part of the first generation of black teenagers who were either born in Britain or arrived at a very early age, and you would have created a nationwide sound system culture whose most popular, heaviest and influential exponents were sounds like Sir Coxsone, Just Sufferer, and a little youth sound called Jashaka Hi-Fi. Stay with Coxsone for a minute. Born in 1945, Lloyd Blackford came to London in 1962 while still in his teens. He formed Coxsone, his sound, no relation to Clement Coxsone, more of him later, in 1968. With his selector Festus, Sir Coxsone presented Jamaican music as if they were its finest ambassadors, and they were. They were the first sound system to tour Europe, hence the extended name, Sir Coxsone Outernational. They had multiple residencies in London's West End and had close ties with top Jamaican producers like Clement Dodd, and that meant that they got new music long before other sounds. They were also the first sound to play the music of Burning Spear, when Winston Rodney was still recording for Studio One, and had yet to become famous in Jamaica or anywhere else. He only had one album to his name at the time. It was called Rocking Time. If I can cue this with a vague level of professionalism, we should be able to have a listen. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. There you go. Burning Spear from 1974 with Rocking Time on Studio One. I think probably between 1974 and 1988 was a kind of like golden age of black British sound systems. I think there were probably, say around 1979, over 300 sound systems in Britain alone. But by, say, 1999, pirate radio started taking the place of the role of sound systems, and many a sound system called a day, while others struggled to make sense of the new digitally produced music coming from Jamaica and the UK. Jashaka sound system prevailed. The sound embraced the new music and attracted new audiences. Between the late 1980s and say the mid to late 1990s, Shaka had a residency at the Rocket in North London, and he used that residency to showcase Jamaican and British dub plates, super obscure roots tunes that you'll have a hard time finding even now, and regular releases on his own label, Just Shaka Music. and live dub mixing. If you ever get the opportunity to go to Jashaka Sound System and you haven't, go. In that period, what the sound more or less did was create the model or the template for dub and roots rock reggae production and sound system culture in Europe. And that culture, that model, is pretty much existent up until now. What I'm going to play you now is from a series of dub albums, I think it in 95 or 96, called Dub Salute. This is from volume 2. It's called Jashaka featuring Iko Candy. This track is called, if it comes up right, Love is the Key, Dub. These things are sent to try me, I swear. Iko Candy, Dub is the Key. Why does this keep happening? There you go. From a flyer dated August the 11th, 1973, a DJ Cool Herc party back to school jam. 9 till 4, admission 25 cents ladies, 50 cents fellas. Given by Cool Herc with special guests Coco, that's MC Coke LaRock, Cindy C, Cool Herc's sister, Cindy Campbell, Clark K, MC Clark Kent, and Timmy T, that's the MC, Timmy Tim. That back-to-school jam was held in the Community Recreation Room at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue. And Sedgwick Avenue is widely regarded as the birthplace of hip-hop, and it was presided over by a young graffiti artist turned DJ, Clive Campbell, aka Cool Herc. The UK wasn't the only place where sound system culture was taking off. Born in Kingston, Jamaica in 1955, Clive Campbell was 12 when his family moved to the Bronx in '67. Campbell's dad, Keith, was a musician. He had a lot of records and a lot of sound equipment. Soon the young DJ Cool Herc was throwing his own parties with his own sound system, which at first was no more than a guitar amplifier, a couple of turntables, and tunes that more or less went like this. Apache by the incredible Bongo Band. When DJ Kool Herc isolated the percussive break from that tune and mixed it with another tune by the incredible Bongo Band called Bongo Rock, cutting the breaks back and forth, he created extended drum breaks and hip-hop was born. Legend has it that DJ Kool Herc's MC, Cocola Rock, was more than a foundation hip-hop MC, he was the first ever MC. In a 1983 interview with journalist Troy L. Smith for the hip-hop journal The Foundation, Cocola Rock said he left hip-hop in 1979 and he started hanging out at the Paradise Garage. Paradise Garage, he said, had the best sound system in New York. And, Smith says, Larry Levan. And Cocola Rock says, right, there you go, Larry Levan. For Cocola Rock, Larry Levan, DJ, remixer, and co-inventor of house music, was like this. He was the sound of the Paradise Garage. Paradise Garage had the best sound system in New York thanks to a sound system designer and builder by the name of Richard Long of Richard Long Associates, designers of custom-built sound systems. Richard Long wasn't from the Jamaican sound system continuum that more or less begins with Tom the Great Sebastian, nor was he part of the history of black migration through which Jamaican sound systems were disseminated in the UK and the US. What he had in common with that continuum was a concern with and a knowledge of how to make recorded music sound heavy, clear, and powerful. He also designed the space of the Paradise Garage and of clubs in general, so that they would bring out the best in his sound systems. According to Larry Levan's fellow DJ, David DiPino, talking about the sound of Richard Long's sound system, he said, look, the walls were all treated with fiberglass, so was the ceiling. When the lights went on, there was nothing pretty about the dance floor, and when the lights went off, it was just a black box. But it was so treated with sound, it was treated so the sound got absorbed on one wall and didn't go back and forth. There was no bounce, there was no echo. The fiberglass in the ceiling was positioned in certain angles to make V shapes to create horns. Richard would come in every Friday with this little machine that created pink noise and he cued the sound system. And then through the night, the garage would get very hot because there was no air conditioning and you had 3,000 people dancing. It had exhaust and inflow, but the sound would change as the speakers heated up and as the room got more crowded. So Larry would go behind the amplifiers and tweak them all night. The sound system sounded as good at 12 o'clock with 2 people dancing on the floor as it did at 5 o'clock in the morning with 2,000 people on the floor, and at 10 o'clock in the morning with maybe 4,000 people on the floor. This might all sound a little bit techie. The context for Long's innovation is the before and after effect of the Stonewall riots of 1969. Before the riots, dancing with a man in a bar could get you arrested for disorderly conduct. And since bars were regularly raided by the police, the Stonewall Inn was one of the few bars where dancing took place. Steady. The Stonewall riots marked a kind of coming out. They had a cultural correlate in a passion for the sound of music in the newly emboldened safe spaces of queer club culture. Richard Long and Larry Levan's collaborative queering of the sound of music is one of the cornerstones of house music. Put it another way, sound was the medium of Long and Levan's queering of dance culture. The importance of community was the message of that medium. What I'm going to try and play you now is Larry Levan's Dubwise remix of MFSB's Love is the Message. I love it when it works. the Strangeness of Dub in Nottingham. Knock yourselves out. Love is the Message, the Larry Levan Dubwise remix. There is a documentary that I think you should know about. It's called The Founding Fathers of Hip Hop. It's by two guys by the name of Ron Lawrence and Hassan Poré. And it offers a lot of anecdotal and material evidence that the evolution of hip hop was an organic process with DJs and MCs developing the form in relative isolation from each other. Something that DJs had in common was that the track you've just heard, Love is the Message, was a track that they would use to prove their skills at mixing, cutting, scratching, and extending beats. So it could be heard as a kind of musical connection between the invention of hip hop and the invention of house music. What's interesting for our story is that that record was played on sound systems, and sound systems were, the film tells us, big in Brooklyn, big in Queens. The Disco Twins, Infinity Machine, New Sounds, they were the heaviest, but the template, the foundation if you want, was a sound based in Queens called King Charles. King Charles came to America from Jamaica in 1968. What he brought with him was the memory of having seen and heard a sound called King Tubby's Hometown Hi-Fi. Now the film doesn't say when exactly King Charles saw King Tubby's sound, but if you do the math, if he came to America in 68, that means that he would have seen King Tubby's sound system before the King invented the remix, or if you prefer, dub, or before he at least recorded any of his dub mixes through which the remix was born. I'll be coming back to King Tubby later on, time permitting, but first here's a coincidence. In Jamaica, in the mid-1950s, when sound systems were being developed through pioneers like Tom the Great Sebastian, something similar was happening in South America, in Colombia. In the poor, predominantly black communities of Colombia's coastal cities, which are the poorest parts of Colombia, sound systems with names like El Grande Fidel started out as small affairs, but grew into powerful, bass-heavy sound systems, or picos, P-I-C-O-S. That's what they called them in Colombia, sound systems, and they named them after the pickup, the stylus on a turntable, and the picos prided themselves on playing strictly vinyl. Picos started out playing mostly salsa, but when salsa lost its rhythmic edge, and merchant seamen or sailors started bringing records in from Africa and from the Caribbean, Musica Africa, that was the generic term for music from the African diaspora, that all became part of the ruling sound of the picos. In Barrio Nuevo Colombia, Norma Zuniga's pico, El Son Africa, or Africano, the African sound, started playing Congolese, Nigerian, and Kenyan music as early in 1975. Let me see if I can do this professionally. From Kenya, these are the Elgonets.
No. with tears, sweet life, but shirt as a dream. Sweet memories will stay long in my heart. Sweet memories will stay long in my heart. Close your eyes and pray for me.
Kasanga 7-inch single all the way from Kenya circa 1975. Diogo Nets with Awinja, as no doubt played on Norma Zoniga's Pico El Son Africana. I wonder if the Pico's identification with Africa through music was a way of giving black Colombians a sense of presence. In a 1920 paper for Auto Italia, titled Sound Systems, World Beat and Diasporan Identity in Cartagena, Colombia, Deborah Pacini Hernandez, who's the Associate Professor of Anthropology at Tufts University, says, Colombia has an official ideology that perpetuates the myth that Colombia is primarily bicultural, mestizo and indigenous, rather than multiracial and multicultural, which effectively excludes black people from the country's national identity. Colombia has a long history, Hernandez says, of actively disparaging its African population and their culture. The social status of Colombian sound systems and Musica Africana began to change in the early 1990s. Not without opposition, Picos and Musica Africana became part of the Colombian mainstream through bootlegs, radio, festival, mixes by the Picos of their top tunes, or block parties. By the early noughties or the early 20th century, Picos and vinyl were undergoing something of a resurgence and were getting attention from international media. I think what really makes Picos truly unique in the dissemination of sound systems is their pioneering Pan-African approach to music selection. In 2020, when Hernandez went to Colombia's coastal city of Cartagena, she found that African Colombians were rocking, she says, to soukous from West Africa, mbakanga from South Africa, zouk from Martinique and Guadeloupe, soca from Trinidad, and reggae and dancehall from Jamaica, which you might say to yourself is all kind of well, question is, if I can get my computer to work, where is the dub? Now, that was Mighty Massa, Break Down the Babylon. There's a dub that I don't have time to play, which is still worth checking out. As played, I'm told, by Abashanti and Jashaka, but not strictly speaking from the African diaspora. So there's no telling whether Colombia's Picos would have played it or not. And it's actually from the sound system dub diaspora. I don't know if you know who Mighty Massa is. He's a fella from Japan. He owns a Mighty Massa sound system, which was formed in 1994, and credited with being the first Jamaican sound system to model itself on that template that roots rock reggae dub template that Shaka and latterly Abashami developed to perfection. In a 2019 interview, Mighty Massa told Japanese online magazine Eyeshadow that he'd seen Joey J's Good Time sound system and Jazzy B's Souls to Soul sound system in 1998, and he visited Jamaica in 1992. But when he tried to cut dub plates in Jamaica, he was given dancehall rhythms and a dancehall MC. He figured he'd find what he wanted in London. Obviously, he did not want Bashment. He started building his own rhythms. He took those to the UK to be mastered and cut as dub plates at Jatubby's in London. If you ever need dub plates cut, go to either Music House in Tottenham or Jatubby's. In the late 1990s, the best of Japan's dancehall sound systems followed the Jamaican model of dancehall style and presentation to the letter. And the best, if not the baddest dancehall sound system was of 1999 in Japan, Mighty Crown. Let me start that again. The name of the best, if not the baddest dancehall sound system in the world, as of 1999, was from Yokohama, Japan, Mighty Crown. It happened one night in Brooklyn. From a flyer, this: Irish and Chin Entertainment World Clash 1999. It's not where you're from, it's where you represent. Saturday, October the 9th, Columbus Day weekend, Club Warehouse, 1370 Ralph Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, featuring 98 world champion representing the world, Kilimanjaro. Bass Odyssey, Tony Matterhorn. Representing Japan, Mighty Crown. This is how they did it. Now, I haven't played any sound tape so far. It's been vinyl and MP4s and so on and so forth. So from the closing round of 1999 World Clash, here is some sound system tape business. If you've got sensitive ears, if you're a little bit cheery and a little bit wary of foul language, cover your ears now. What we're going to do is we're going to join the clash as Tony Matterhorn has just been eliminated, and it's Kilimanjaro versus Mighty Crown in a tune-for-tune, dub-plate fragment for dub-plate fragment showdown. Listen out, if you will, for Mighty Crown's wonderful Jamaican accents.
Well, this is the Mighty Crown. Sammy T, the man called Kuduro. Well, Simon and Stick on a watch face because Sammy Dreadlocks and Johnny Asbury's, you know. 2 in 1. We're gonna rock it tonight. A mighty gonna rock it tonight. It's a Mighty Crown killer, not a big band tonight.
Yo, turn the mic, listen now. Listen. Yo, yes, right about now. Yo, hear this blood clot, you know. Hey, you are one. God, that's still policy with it.
No one Irish Rasta cover every tradition. I'll kind of like it.
No play it on Jawa tune. Japanese never play something like this. Me lock off and boom. Me start now.
So I feel like I'm gonna get it. Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm the sunrise series.
Yo. Hey, she got it, you know. Yo, Nina. Hey, Nina, where you go? Hey, listen.
Jaro, Arobana.
Yes. Yeah, man, respect, you know, give thanks, you know, for every little thing, man, say it for real. You know, sure we name the fires, we have to touch that rhythm now, fires, you see me, I say, clip them away now.
Yeah. I'll be up for like 4 G's. Because the best thing, Jamaica, welcome when the clip was so on.
What's the matter, Ron? I'm me blood clot take a shot me. Yo! Yes, it me no blood clot go me. God that shit! Yo, God that shit! Yo, God that shit! God that shit! God that shit! Yo!
Kill them again, Jaro.
Yo, Michael, yo!
Kill them on Jaro. So is it? Take another one to the nearest cemetery. Calling, calling, calling undertaker. Take another dividend on the stretcher. Evacuate the premises.
Run! Them tune I can't fret me at all. Are you ready for it? Are you ready? Run that tune, run it. Run the blood clot tune.
The voice of
Lord mercy. Pull it up now. Pull up Simon, pull it up now. Jack up Simon, rock it up now. Pull up it, pull it up.
What it is right now?
It's like we go, baby, jump up. And we try.
Yo! Circle on New York. That's the wicked. Rancho.
Daryl's in the moon. No moving. Daryl's in the moon. Wow. Send another song.
Yo, what do like we have one now? What do we want to play more? Summit. Yo, Chano, you know I remember a long talking to you. Just run the blood clot, show me. I like, around me, I run the blood clot.
The mighty crown is the one that rules.
I choose one man, blood clot.
Faris ruler, Sami, Simon,
Let's get
Mexico,
blood clot, show
go
me.
to the broad.
Show me a
All
clot,
the time
man.
we say that. My God, Rapper, the ruler, man. Look here. Mighty crown, how they love you.
It's a wonderful thing.
I be a blood clot carry this man. Yeah!
And that is how Mighty Crown became the biggest sound system on the planet. Mighty Crown won the clash with the Alton Ellis. That tune knocked the wind out of Ricky Trooper. Why? Kilimanjaro never really played Rocksteady in a clash. That was a YouTube comment from a guy called PowerShell Sound System. That Alton Ellis tune was a dub play of that 1967 Studio One tune, Let Them Try, that I played you a little while ago. Mighty Crown's knowledge of that tune and their retooling of its rocksteady rhythm to hit Kilimanjaro's Ricky Trooper where his hearing fell short had a limit of sorts. It was the beginning of a Japanese dancehall cultural explosion and a dancehall industry that by about 2005 saw dancehall music in Japan's pop mainstream. Mighty Crown's first festival was in 2005. Yokohama Reggae Sai attracted 30,000 people. I think the dissemination of sound system culture, of sound systems as a global phenomenon of organic crisscrossing lines of rhythm and approaches to rhythm, of collectivity and collaboration, of the movement of sound in dub and through open ear and closed spaces, of the migration of technologies of sound, of songs and spaces in songs, of memories old and new, of forced and coerced human migration, to maybe dark and dangerous places, and perhaps even memories or at least hopes of settlement. I think that was the idea, the concept, if you like, behind and within the grooves and in the almost empty spaces in the mixes in King Tubby and Clancy Eccles' dub album, Sound System International Dub Album. From that album, these, if all goes well, are King Tubby and the Dynamites. Hold on a minute. We can do this better than that. Give me 1 second.
Yo! Them say a 2 more.
Shut up.
That's not it.
King Tubby. Dynamites, the Clancy Eccles All-Stars from the album Sound System International Dub LP. I like the idea that dub itself can take the weight of conceptual thinking, but also contains within itself conceptual thinking, such as the dissemination of dub, which by 76 would have already happened. If you think about it, dub going from, or sound system culture going from Jamaica, happening in South America at the same time in the mid-1950s, reaching over to the UK around about the same time, and then spreading out through the likes initially of Sir Cox and International. So you could argue, I think, that what King Tubby and Clancy Eccles and the Dynamites were doing collectively, consciously or not isn't really the point, they were already establishing the idea of an international sound system culture just through that LP. I want to leave you with something a little bit more recent that really picks up and runs with the idea of an international sound system culture that does indeed lead us back to dub. We're staying in the Americas. It's from Brazil, where a sound system culture has been flourishing since at least the 1970s. Now, since around 2010, sound systems like Jashaka and Abashani, they more or less given Brazil its most vibrant, generative model of sound reproduction in a country with well over 100 sound systems. There's a guy by the name of Yold Delius. He was writing in soundsandcolors.com, and he gives a really good reason for this proliferation, especially of roots and dub sound systems. And he suggests that the popularity of reggae in Brazil goes back to the legacy in Brazil of its slave-owning past. African Brazilians living in crowded favelas related to roots rock reggae's themes of poverty, inequality, and its affirmation of African pride in the face of racism because of the similarities they felt between their own experience and those of Jamaica's working poor. After the shift from a military government to civilian rule in the 1980s, many African Brazilians became quite vocal about the discrimination they continue to experience, and they embraced the message in the music, such as we've heard by Burning Spear and of Joseph Hill, Culture, who I should have played but haven't, as a respite from and as a response to what Delius calls Brazil's cordial racism. I love that phrase, cordial racism. That identification with roots rock reggae intensified in the late 1980s with the centennial of Brazil's abolition of slavery in 1888. Too many African Brazilians felt that too little had changed. And maybe it's no wonder then that roots and dub sound systems are among the most popular sound systems in Brazil. And in fact, Brazil's reigning reggae sound system is called Digital Dubs. This is from their album Instrumental Dubs in a Dub Plate Style Volume 1. Let me see if I've got it all keyed up. Boom, boom, boom. This is nice. Sax to Instinto, featuring from South London, Digistep. System International. I am more or less Little George. Thank you for your time, your patience, and your consideration.
Junkyards, this pub very close to here. If you want to join us, you're more than welcome. And if you have any questions, you can put them right there. Yeah, another round of applause, please, because this is